It was almost noon when they came. A cold wind swept through Geneva, New York. The sky was heavy with the threat of snow, and the air was thick with winter's silence. But silence wouldn't last. 3 men stood at the edge of the property. They wore dark tactical vests, black utility pants, and thick jackets lined with armor. Their badges gleamed in the early light, clipped high on their chests. Too high to read unless you got too close. The kind of closeness that could cost you. Each of them had a firearm strapped to their hip, cuffs looped at their waist, and radios clipped to their shoulders. The radios crackled now and then, with brief bursts of static whispering and some unknown coordination in the background. Ice. Their faces were unreadable, locked behind that trained, cold expression. The look of men who had done this before. Men who had walked into neighborhoods like this, in cities like this, under the same pretense. A name, a file, a mission. But they weren't just knocking on doors. They were hunting. The people of Geneva, NY, had never seen anything like this before. Just an hour from Rochester, the town had its share of visitors, some welcome, some not. But at this moment, no one was less welcome than those men standing in front of the house. And they weren't alone. A small group had gathered at the threshold of the house, standing between the agents and the door. 3 people. 1 woman, 2 men. The woman held her phone up, camera recording, her breath visible in the freezing air. She had seen the cars when they rolled in. A black Nissan Pathfinder, a silver Ford Explorer, 2 unmarked SUVs, but everyone knew what they meant. This wasn't local law enforcement. This was something else. One of the men, dressed in a black hoodie and jeans, shifted his stance. He wasn't big, but he wasn't afraid. His eyes flicked between the agents, reading them, measuring them. The second man, older, bundled in a thick winter coat, crossed his arms and exhaled sharply. His face was lined, weathered by experience. He'd lived in Geneva for decades. He had seen things. They all had. The woman's phone caught everything, the boots shifting on the pavement, the twitch of a trigger finger resting just a little too close to a holstered gun, the way one of the agents kept glancing at the side of the house like he was thinking about making a move. She knew this game. She had seen the videos before. She had watched the news. And she knew what happened when people didn't record. Ice Agent 1 stepped forward, boots grinding against the driveway's gravel. "If you're unwilling to help us, then we won't have this conversation." The man in the black hoodie barely flinched. "You said you guys are looking for someone?" The agent's jaw tensed. "If you're willing to help us, we can talk. But other than that..." He let the sentence hang, glancing at the phone camera. A warning. A threat. The scene was eerily familiar. The black vehicles idling on the curb, the way the agents loomed in the early morning light, the stiff posture of men who saw themselves as enforcers. The civilians stood firm, refusing to yield. The tension was so thick that it felt like the street was holding its breath. This was not new. Not in history. Not in America. Not anywhere that power saw fit to extend its reach. The way the agents spoke, their clipped, measured tones, the way they didn't answer questions directly, just circled, prodded, pressed. It felt like something out of an old film reel. Not New York in 2025, but Berlin in 1939. Because it always starts the same way. With uniforms. With boots on the pavement. With a knock at the door. Ice Agent 1. "Clearly you're talking to them, telling them not to open the door. They have rights. I understand that." The woman holding the phone narrowed her eyes. They have rights. And yet here they were, dressed like soldiers, standing in front of a home, waiting. Ice Agent 1. "But we might not even talk to these people. We're trying to figure it out." Figure what out? The woman's stomach twisted. That was the trick. The pretense of uncertainty. The idea that maybe, just maybe, they had the wrong house, the wrong person, that they weren't here for something terrible, that they weren't here for what everyone knew they were here for. Citizen 1. "Okay, that's fine. I mean, I'm sure you would have their contact information." A silence. The agent smiled thinly. Ice Agent 1. "Well, this is our address." The words felt surgical, chosen carefully. Not, this is where they live. Not, we know they're here. This is the address that we have. Thin words. It's just thin enough to slide through a loophole. The woman felt her fingers tighten around the phone, because she had seen the videos before. She had seen how agents like these lied, claimed they had a warrant when they didn't. They claimed they had a right to enter when they didn't. They claimed they wouldn't take someone away, until they did. And yet, here they were. The older man in the winter coat shifted his stance. He had been silent for most of this exchange, but now his voice was low and steady. Citizen 2. I know you guys are, but I'm trying to bring some understanding to what's going on. I know what you're doing. I know what will be happening next, in all honesty. One of the agents stiffened, his jaw tightened. ICE Agent 1. Not why we're here today. Citizen 2. That's why you're here today, but it won't happen. ICE Agent 2. In all fairness, what we're going to do is leave. We're looking for a security subject. We'll return and attempt to locate that. The man in the hoodie cut in. Citizen 1. Did you guys have permission to return there? The question hit like a slap. The agent blinked. Citizen 1. No, don't get caught. I don't think you have permission to go to the back of the house. And just like that, the unspoken truth crystallized. The woman's stomach dropped. They had already checked the back. While they were talking. While they were stalling. They pretended they didn't know if this was the right house. They had already looked. Which meant they knew. Which meant someone inside that house was running out of time. And suddenly, the weight of the morning felt unbearable. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. And every single person standing there knew it. The street felt tighter. The air was thicker. Every neighbor on the block was watching now, peering from windows, standing on porches, holding phones at their sides, and rolling cameras. The moment had shifted. A few minutes ago, it was just an interaction. A tense one, sure, but nothing out of the ordinary for anyone who had been through this before. But now? Now, it was something else. Now, it was a standoff. The woman recording had seen enough ICE videos to know what happened when the footage stopped. Once, a camera battery died in Arizona right before an agent pulled a man out of his truck. Another time, in California, a live stream cut out right as a family was dragged into the street. That wasn't going to happen here. Her phone was at 73% battery. She double-checked the storage. There is more than enough room. She wasn't going to miss a second. The agents, for their part, pretended not to notice, which meant they noticed. ICE Agent 2, the tallest of the three, shifted his weight. His boots crunched softly against the frost-covered ground. The morning light glinted off the silver handcuffs clipped to his belt. His partner, ICE Agent 1, kept his hands tucked into his vest, fingers flexing occasionally. The third, ICE Agent 3, stayed slightly back, watching the civilians like a wolf watches a herd, trying to see where the weakest link might be. No one moved. The agent who had checked the back of the house had stopped speaking. He wasn't answering the question. He wasn't saying anything at all. And the silence was deafening. Trespassing. With a badge. Citizen. 1. So you just walked back there? Nothing. Citizen 1. You didn't have permission. Still. Nothing. The man in the winter coat let out a slow, measured breath. Citizen 2. See, that's the thing. You won't answer the question. That's a tell-all right there. He gestured toward the house. This is private property. The agents didn't respond. Didn't argue. Didn't explain. Because what could they say? They had already done what they weren't supposed to do. And nobody here was stupid. The woman filming kept her camera steady. She zoomed in on Agent 1's vest, capturing his jaw's slight, frustrated twitch. That was the game. To do it first, then deal with the consequences later. To step past the line, then act surprised when someone points it out. It was an old game. A well-practiced game. A Gestapo trick. And it worked most of the time. Because most people were too scared to say anything. Most people didn't want to push their luck. But the people standing here? They weren't most people. And today wasn't most days. The Ford Explorer's engine was still running. The Nissan Pathfinder had its headlights on, cutting through the thin morning fog. Those weren't cars that had been parked for long. They were waiting, poised, ready to make a quick exit, or storm in. The woman recording felt it. The others did too. This wasn't a random check. This wasn't some routine door knock. They had someone. Or at least, they thought they did. Agent 1 sighed through his nose as if suddenly tired of this whole thing. ICE Agent 1. In all fairness, we'll leave. We're looking for a security subject. We'll return and attempt to locate that subject. The woman recording squinted. Security subject? What the hell was a security subject? A name? A person? Or was it just another empty phrase to make what they were doing sound official? Citizen 1 didn't buy it. Neither did Citizen 2. Neither did the other neighbors who had stepped onto their porches now. They were watching. Eyes hard, unblinking. And the agents knew it. Citizen 1. Did you guys have permission to return there? No answer. Citizen 1. No. Don't get caught. I don't think you have permission to go to the back of the house. Silence. Then, a slight twitch. A look is exchanged between Agent 1 and Agent 2. A small shift, barely anything. But the woman caught it on camera. And that was enough. That was everything. The ice-cold truth. There was no more pretending. No more polite exchanges. The agents knew they had been caught in a lie. They knew everyone standing here knew it. And they knew they weren't going to get in that house today. Not without a warrant. Not without a fight. But that didn't mean they were giving up. Because ICE never goes away. Not forever. Not for long. And if they didn't get someone inside that house today, they'd be back. Maybe next time it wouldn't be Geneva. Maybe it'd be Rochester. Maybe it'd be me. Until next time, Anton Dancer, writer, Buddhist. Permission to be Powerful is a reader-supported publication. To receive new posts and support my work, consider becoming a free or paid subscriber.